Good morning, everybody. Lee Brower here, and welcome to this week's edition of Meaningful Monday. I am grateful to be here, and I am glad to be here. I'm grateful today for the power of real teamwork. Whether it's on a sports field, in a business, in a family, I've seen firsthand how coming together can turn challenges into victories. First, let's start with gratitude. Gratitude opens our minds and our hearts. That's why we always begin in gratitude or go big at the start of these messages. Now, there's a quote by Bill Parcells, who's a legendary NFL coach. And he said, losers assemble in small groups and complain about the coaches and the other players. Winners assemble as a team and find ways to win. It's a sports quote, but it's also a life quote. It reminds us that complaining is easy and creating is harder. But that's what winners do. Again, losers assemble in small groups and complain about the coaches and other players. Winners assemble as a team and find ways to win. That's what winners do. We live in what leaders now call a VUCA world, a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world. In plain language, you have to agree that it's a world where change is constant, information is overwhelming, and clarity can be hard to find. And clarity always brings energy, positive energy. But in times like these, it's tempting to retreat into little groups, to complain, to criticize, point fingers. It feels safer to be in a group like that, but it doesn't build anything. And you see, the key is winners assemble as a team. They listen, they collaborate, and they create solutions. And then they multiply their impact. What a difference. In our community, we talk about what we call arrows out. And arrows out simply means thinking of others first, looking outward, not inward. We also talk about red R and green R. Red R is that fast reactive response we all feel when something frustrates us. Our emotional fight or flight. The guy cuts us off on the road and boom, boom. He's caused us to go into a space, but we should be in control of ourselves. And that is where we call green R. So red R is that fight or flight. Green R is that thoughtful response we choose after a pause, the moment when we can be gratefully curious instead of instantly defensive. I wonder what's going on with them that would cause them to drive that way. That way we stay in control. See, every time we pause before we complain, we stack one more positive moment. Let me rephrase that. Every time we pause, instead of complain, we stack one more positive moment. And these stacked moments build character and connection, just the same way like practice does for a championship team. So here's a small but powerful question for this week. What's one thing I can do this week to shift a conversation from complaint to collaboration? At home, at work, or online? I'm sure if we look, we can find that place. We can try it. We can experiment with it. When a meeting turns negative, it could be as simple as choosing to just listen longer before you say anything. Instead of sitting there hardly waiting to talk or be thinking about what you're going to say next instead of thinking about what the person's talking about. Maybe ask a question. What solution would help? Or what would you recommend? Or you could ask clarifying questions like, help me understand. Tell me more. You see, small shifts like that change the tone of a family, a business, or a community. Remember, we rise by lifting others. And there are some simple time-tested rules that make collaboration even stronger. And we're going to talk about those rules maybe in the future, but things like listening generously, speaking straight, honoring commitments, appreciating one another. We're going to look at those in future Meaningful Monday. But now let's just start by making this one small shift from complaint to collaboration and watch the difference that it makes. Thank you for joining me this week. Let's live life deliberately. Let's make this week meaningful. Let's look for those opportunities where we can move into curious gratitude. Have a meaningful week. We'll talk next week. Bye-bye.